When we meet in discussion board tomorrow, I want us to focus our attention on the day's reading, which is a piece, not an opinion piece, but a news piece that came out in 2017. I'm just turning to it now. Uh, from headline to photograph, a fake news masterpiece. This is an interesting piece. It tells a story about someone who was about the age of many of you. He was just a recent college graduate who started to make a considerable amount of money and could have, in fact, cashed in on a lot of money if his timing had been better by peddling stories that were complete fabrications. They were lies. They weren't especially good lies. They were ones that I think, looking at them in retrospect, we'd be able to fact check pretty easily, and if even without a lot of sophisticated resource, we'd be able to prove that they were fake with probably just a half an hour's work. But yet they generated enough interest that they were able to generate considerable money for this young, if unscrupulous, person. When we meet on discussion board, I want us to focus on a couple of things. First, I want us to follow up on that idea that I introduced to you last class period, that successful fake news pieces will both exploit and strengthen people's prejudices. They gain credibility by appealing to things that people are already likely to believe, and then they reinforce those very beliefs. So I want to keep that idea in mind. The notion that these fake news stories, the ones that are successful, and by successful I mean the ones that get circulated and that people buy into, that they both exploit and strengthen people's prejudices. So that's where I want us to start. And then I want us to build on that in our discussion and look at every aspect of this story that we learn about in the New York Times piece, and think about all of the rhetorical decisions that this person made in order to make his claims appear more possible, to make them appear more believable. And we can look at even the visual rhetoric of his website, the domain name. And remember, we learned in the piece that he was able to buy that domain name for just about $5. Why did he choose that one? How was that part of his design? Um, what is he doing with the visual material that we learn about in this piece to help make this piece more convincing? So those are the two ideas where I want us to start. What does he do to make this really convincing? But before we get there, how does this piece exploit and reinforce the prejudices of the people who are going to consume it? When we get done with that, we'll move on to some other work, and I'm going to have us look at some more recent fake news stories and see if we can do a little bit of rhetorical analysis on those, all of which will really be practice for the last paper that you'll do in the class. Okay, remember your Craig and Fred papers are due coming up on April 9th. I am happy to meet with you to go over drafts. We can do that by email. You can text me. You can call me on my cell phone. I've given you that number. We can also meet through Zoom, and doing that, we can look at the paper directly on the screen and conference just like we were in my office. Okay, guys. See you in the morning. Take care.